Thanks, Alex. Great to be with you folks again from XY Planning. So today I wanted to talk to you about how to use our software to find safe ways to maximize your clients' lifetime spending. Webinar today is the second, as Alex indicated, in a series. The first webinar was comparing economics-based and conventional financial planning. That's posted at our website. You just go to maxifyplanner.com/webinars, or just go to maxify.com and click under for planners, and you'll see a link to webinars. You'll come to the webinar page, and if you just scroll down, you'll come to the to all the different webinars that we've given of late. There's about 5 or so, and we'll be continuing to provide webinars. So if you keep an eye on that page and you want to register for other webinars, they're perfectly free. Love to have you, and love to have you invite other financial planners or even just households, clients that you have. So anyway, today we're going to talk about maximizing clients' lifetime spending. But then next well, not next Friday, but yeah, actually a week from this Friday, we'll have a webinar on using our economics-based financial planning to optimize your clients' portfolio choices. So that I think is going to be a very interesting webinar as well for you to attend, because we have really the holy grail of economic analysis, which is called expected utility maximization, embedded in our software, and we're the only software program on the planet that has this. So economists have been focusing on that as a guide to optimizing one's portfolio choices or choosing the optimal portfolio portfolio. And we actually have that expected utility maximization going on in our program at this point. So let me now give you the agenda for today. I just want to briefly review economics-based planning for just a minute or two. I'm going to just define lifetime discretionary spending for you, because that enters prominently in our definition of living standard per household member. So you're going to see both of these variables in the presentation today: lifetime discretionary spending, and then discretionary spending per household member. That's basically the living standard, but there's a couple adjustments I'll mention. And then I'm going to illustrate our program's ability to robo-optimize your client's living standard and also lifetime discretionary spending, because the two go hand in hand. And then I'm going to illustrate how to manually optimize lifetime discretionary spending, because not everything can be automated in our software. So some things one has to do by setting up alternative profiles and comparing them with other profiles. So the goals of economic-based planning, just to recall from the prior webinar, the clients are really interested in smoothing their living standard over time, and also over times, good times and bad times. This is the one of the key goals of economics-based planning. And another key goal is to maximize your sustainable living standard. So if you're a financial planner, you're trying to maximize your client's sustainable living standard. Then you want to make sure the client is spending within their lifetime budget, so they're not running out of money at the end. But then there's also annual budget constraints that may matter if the client is cash constrained. They may, for example, somebody may have no ability to save whatsoever this year, and their discretionary spending is limited by their available cash, or it might be that it's limited over the next 10 years when they have to pay off the mortgage, when they have a lot of kids at home and mouths to feed, when they have to save up for tuition for college for their children. This can lead them to be cash constrained over a number of years, and that's also a goal of economics-based planning, not to violate any of these cash constraints, to try and smooth your living standard subject to these cash constraints, and also subject to your lifetime budget constraint. And then another goal of financial planning is using insurance and portfolio diversification to limit your client's living standard risk. So those are the key goals of this approach. And the basis of economics-based planning, as I talked about a bit last time, is lifetime, what we call lifetime utility maximization. And when we have a context of uncertainty, and I'm going to leave out uncertainty today and talk about uncertainty in the next webinar with you. But with uncertainty, we're focused on maximizing expected lifetime utility. And utility just refers, it's just a different word for happiness, but it refers to happiness at a point in time. Lifetime utility refers to happiness over all future points in time. So usually economists are focused on happiness over a year, and then lifetime happiness is lifetime utility, and that's happiness over all future years, current year and future years together. And what is this business of happiness? How can you actually write a mathematical expression for happiness? Because economics is a math-based science. So, and here we are trying to quantify or put down some kind of a mathematical function for happiness. And a key thing about, we do that, and there's different assumptions about the way these happiness functions work, or how they're actually specified. But one fundamental property that virtually every happiness function has is that it reflects satiation. And the idea of satiation is that if you're sitting down and having cupcakes, eating the 20th cupcake isn't as good as eating the first. You're satiated, right? We're physiologically set up to be satiated, and that's a fundamental feature of how economists specify mathematically utility functions. Happiness goes up with the amount that you consume, so it's always better to consume more. You're always happier, but it goes up at a decreasing rate, if you like. What that means is that you're getting happier as you get to consume more, but each increment in your consumption doesn't give you as much extra happiness as you have consumed more and more of those cupcakes. So that's the reason that we have people interested in smoothing their living standard. They don't want to eat all their cupcakes in 1 year. They want to spread their cupcakes out over time. That's consumption smoothing. Now, discretionary spending in our program in Maxify Planner refers to all spending apart from fixed expenses. So fixed expenses are taxes, housing expenses, tuition payments, alimony payments, any special expenses on like college expenses and alimony, they would be entered as special expenses. So anything that's housing expense, mortgage payments, insurance costs for the house, tax payments, federal and state, Medicare Part B premiums, that's another tax in effect. That's also a fixed expense. Premiums for life insurance, that's also a fixed expense in our program. All these things are not discretionary spending. Discretionary spending is all the spending that's left over after you've met your fixed expenses every year. And if you add up all that spending, take the present value, the value in the present of all that current and future discretionary spending, that's your lifetime discretionary spending. And then the living standard in a given year refers to the discretionary spending divided by the number of household members. But we make two adjustments in the course of doing this division. We're not exactly dividing by the number of household members. We're adjusting for the fact that kids are not as expensive as an adult to generate the same living standard. So we're treating in our software children as 70% as expensive as adults. And then we also are adjusting for economies in shared living, the fact that two can live more cheaply than one. And in our software, we're actually assuming that two adults can live as cheaply as 1.6 adults. And if you have more kids, then the economies of shared living will be even a little bit better than 1.6. But anyway, that's giving you a general idea of that. proposition. And what I'm going to do next is take you through the software and actually show you how to use it to make your clients a lot of money and do so with no risk whatsoever. So this is in the jargon of Wall Street finding alpha, seeking alpha is another way to put it. So I'm going to show you a base profile. Then I'm going to robo-optimize. I'm going to show you how our software can robo-optimize your client's living standard over a couple dimensions. One is Social Security decisions, and collection decisions, and also retirement account withdrawal decisions. And then I'm going to look at contributing more to 401ks, whether that can matter much to a client's lifetime discretionary spending and therefore their annual living standard. I'm going to look at a Roth conversion, see if that can help. I'm going to consider downsizing the home, and then I'm going to downsize the home with 100% down payment. And then I'm going to downsize the home in a no tax date, which is going to be Texas in this case. The couple is going to move from Connecticut to Texas. And then I'm going to do one other optimization that I failed to put in here, which is annuitize the retirement account withdrawals. Now, let me now just take you over to the actual program. So for those of you who are new to our software, we have, if you're a financial planner, after you've entered some data for different clients, you would have a list of all your clients' data. And then in this case, this is, in effect, the client I set up, which was this webinar. And when I open this up, I see a list of all the profiles that I've set up. If I go back here and just, if I were adding a new client from scratch, I would just, be told that you're going to have to enter basic information, financial details, view your plan. That's the basic course of events with a new client. And you'd enter, just to show you really quickly, John Jones. You'd enter the client's name, and then you'd be asked in a very TurboTax type manner questions about the client. Do they have kids, and so forth. So this is the way the program is set up to take in inputs. It's set up to do it in a wizard-like fashion. But I've already set up this client, which is this. I could have called it Franklin Adams, but this is what I named the client's name. Okay, so let's go to the base plan, which is right here. I'm going to click on that, and now you can see the data for this base plan. We have a couple, and I'm going to stick with this couple for my presentation. And then if we want to talk about other things that are not covered here, I can set up on the fly additional profiles or clients and run things for you in real time, because the program runs very, very quickly, as you'll see. So the base plan has first of all, a wife named Jean Smith, who is 56. Her maximum age of life is 100. You can change that if you wanted, but that's the default. We plan for people to live to their maximum age of life for the simple reason that they might. She plans to retire at age 62. And what about her earnings? Well, the job that I entered, I could add other jobs, or I could delete this one, add different jobs, but she's earning 150,000 from 2020 through retirement, which is 6 years later. And if I wanted to edit that, I would just come in here and change the settings. I could click on this and change the amount, for example, and change the period over which she's going to be working. So that's the information I've entered for this person who's a hypothetical person, not a real client, a earnings history for Social Security purposes. So she's now making 150,000. I had her earnings gradually grow from 20,000 at age 20 to close to 150,000. And she's got a retirement account, 401k, $1 million worth of assets, and she's contributing 4.5% a year, and the employer is contributing 4.5%. Now, her husband George is also 56. His earnings are 80K a year, and he's got a Social Security earnings record, like I mentioned, and then he's got a retirement account that's smaller, only 250,000, contributing 2.4% a year. Sorry, as well, no, sorry, it's $2,400 a year, and the employer is contributing the same amount. What about the household data? Well, for the household, we have to look at, for example, housing. So the couple lives in Connecticut. They've got $1 million house with a mortgage of $500,000 and property taxes and homeowners insurance and it's obviously mortgage payments. So they amount to a decent amount of expenses, off the top fixed expenses. And then they have regular assets, which are not retirement account assets, in a savings account of $250,000. And their Social Security strategy is to take their Social Security in January of 2026, that's when they turn 62. So they're going to take Social Security when they retire, as soon as they can. And we also have, they've got no kids at home, so I haven't put any kids. If there are any disabled children, you'd be entering them here because they could be certainly at home. Or any, I mean, you could have children who haven't left the nest yet, and you could specify that they're going to be at home for the next 10 years, and then the program will know, even though they're going to be 35 when they leave, that the household has, that the children have to be taken care of during this period. So under settings and assumptions, if you click on that, you can change lots of inputs. We're assuming a default real return of 0 because that's what the market is saying right now. We're assuming a nominal return of 1.5%, inflation rate of 1.5%. The 30-year TIPS return is 0, so, and the 30-year nominal bond return is 1.5%. So that's an implied inflation rate of 1.5%. So we've got that assumption embedded in all the returns here. The retirement accounts, well, we're assuming that both of them start their retirement account withdrawals at 67, so they're going to take they're not going to annuitize the retirement account withdrawals, but they are going to start taking them in a smooth way starting at 67. And Social Security and Medicare, we're assuming no changes in those provisions, no cuts in benefits in the future. Medicare, we're assuming Part B premiums will rise at 3% a year. Taxes, we're assuming, are going to remain under current law. You could specify that it's going to, the tax law will revert back to the Tax Cut and Job Acts, TCJA, will actually be extended beyond, I think it's 2028 when it expires. So current law assumes that it will expire, and that's what we have as our default. And then you could also go back to the actual tax law before TCJA if you wanted to use that. Then there's other questions about unrealized capital gains and some other tax information. Okay, whether your reserve fund is taxed, municipal gains percentage, all these things that may be of importance to you with particular clients. Estate planning, you can specify whether you want survivors to have the same living standard, whether you want to have the client leave a bequest whenever they die. Funeral, that's whenever they die. If you wanted to have them leave money right at the very end, you could specify a gift as a special expense when they're 99, for example. You can also specify funeral expenses. Living standard index is whether or not they want to have a smooth living standard per household member through time. The default is that it's always at 100. If you wanted this to decline, for example, 1.5% a year, for example, you could specify, click on this, click on project growth, put in here -0.5, and then hit grow, and these numbers will decline. So you can shape the living standard pattern for the client. And then there's some other variables that you can enter as well parameters. But anyway, I'm going to go here to the base profile, and I'm just going to maximize it. No, I'm sorry, I'm just going to run it, just running it, and I'm going to show you where we're starting with this couple. So we're starting with them having a lifetime balance sheet that actually balances, except for about $2. So they're going to be receiving in lifetime resources or income 5.1 million, and they're going to be spending 5.1 million, and that consists of 1.6 in present value of labor income, Social Security benefits about 1.9 million, retirement account withdrawals 1.3 million, and then they've got some regular assets. All the valuation is being done in dollars at the end of the year, so it's like 1.5% higher dollars. That's why this number is not 250, but 253,750. And then they're going to spend fair amount of money on housing, 150,000 for these housing expenses. Federal and state taxes are 739,000. Retirement account contributions are still going to contribute 48,000. Reserve fund, Medicare Part B premiums are quite high, and they're going to buy a little bit of life insurance in the base plan. Now, the key thing is that click here next, you get to see this discretionary spending, which is the orange line, and that's a smooth curve, and its value is 71,000 per year. And the green curve is their income, which you can see is going down and up, and their fixed expenses, which includes the taxes and the mortgage and the housing expenses, primarily for this particular household. It's also a little bit of insurance, life insurance premiums. Those fixed expenses are also not smooth, but the program has figured out how to let this couple have a perfectly smooth ride, have a perfectly smooth living standard. And the living standard per person is plotted here. The blue curve here is the blue line is the discretionary spending, and the orange is the per adult living standard. And there's all kinds of other reports here. You can look at this balance sheet and see and watch how their regular assets evolve, and note that they die broke, which is critically important to verify that the program is actually working. It's one of many ways to see that the program's coming up with numbers that actually are feasible, that a plan that's feasible. And another way to see that the program is working correctly is to note that the dissaving is in the last year is equal to the assets in the year before, and that's what you would expect, so that you zero out. So in any given year, if you notice, the change in assets corresponds to well, you can check that the change in assets corresponds to the change to the saving. So the difference between this number and this number corresponds to that guy right there for any year. That's another way to check the number that everything's working. And if you want to drill down and look at income reports, you can look at charts or tables. And anyway, lots of different reports, retirement account reports, Social Security reports. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is go back to the base plan and run this maximization report and see if we can make for this couple some free money. So what I'm going to do is optimize over two things. I'm going to maximize the household Social Security benefits over their lifetime, and then I'm going to optimize over the retirement account withdrawal dates, because that's going to affect their taxes. I'm not going to annuitize I'm not going to optimize over annuitization. They don't have any Roth money, so I'm not going to look at that option either. So I'm just going to run this maximization. It's going to take about a minute and a half. And if any questions come up, I think it's going to take about a minute and a half, might go faster. But this is because it's the maximization routine takes a bit of time, because it's comparing all kinds of different choices about when to take Social Security benefits, about when to take retirement account withdrawals, when to start them. And that's why it takes a bit of time. But when I ran the base plan, I ran in about a half a second. So if you're just running one profile it'll run really, really quickly, and you'll immediately see the results. This just takes a bit longer. So if you have any questions as I'm going along here, feel free to type them up and send them over to Alex, and we'll be going over them. But in a moment here, you're going to see a bit of money magic in front of your eyes. So we just made this couple, the program just made this couple $628,000. So this couple walks into your office or talks to you by Zoom, and you say, well, yeah, and they want to talk to you maybe about their portfolio, what's going to happen in the stock market. And you say, well, look, before we get into that, let's just assume conservatively, cautiously, you're going to earn zero real return on your assets. Let me just see if I can figure out a way to make you some money safely. Well, what you do, one thing you do is just run this optimization, this robo optimization. And in this case, you've made the couple $628,210. It's like giving them a bag of money, dollar bills, 628,000 of them, for walking in your office. They walk in your office, they pay you whatever your fee is, but you give them $628,000 to walk out with, and there's no risk associated with this. And this is tax-free money. This is what they actually get to spend, because it takes into account the Maximize plan takes into account the different taxes that the couple would have to pay by doing what? And here you see the discretionary spending, the living standard. Sorry, this is the discretionary spending is up about $12,000 a year. So it's about $1,000 a month more they get to spend. And when they pay off the mortgage after that, they get to spend about $17,000 more a month. So that's pretty cool. So what is it that the program has come up with to get them to have a much higher living standard and lifetime discretionary spending? Well, the program is recommending that they take Social Security at 70, not at 62, and it's showing them how much money is involved here. So it's really getting across the point that there's a lot of money on the table by getting Social Security right. And the next thing it's telling us is that they should take their retirement account withdrawals. They should start those at 63 rather than 67, because they have years between 62 when they retire and between 62 and 67 where their tax bracket is quite low. So by taking out money early, they can pay taxes at a lower rate, average tax rate. They'll be in a lower tax bracket. So that's what the program has figured out, that there's a way to raise their lifetime spending by lowering their taxes, but also raising their Social Security benefits. So now what I did is I saved the Maximize plan. I took the base profile, and once you run that, once you maximize it, you can take your base profile and you can apply the Maximize results to the base plan. And I did that, and I saved that name as a Maximize plan. So that's the Maximize plan. Now what I'm going to do is have them contribute more to the retirement accounts. So I'm not going to have the employer contribute more, but I'm going to have Jean contribute more. She'll contribute $4,500 more individually. So maybe the company just opened up a 457 plan, or there's an SRA where she can put in some extra money. And George is going to do the same. He's going to double his own personal employee contribution from $2,400 to $4,800. And now I'm just going to run the report. I'm going to run a comparison report of this Maximize plan plus the extra contributions against the Maximize plan to see if we made any money for the couple. And it says, congratulations, you made some money for the couple. And how much is it? Well, you can see it's this particular case, it's not a huge amount of money. It's only a few $100, but it was something. It's not trivial. It's not zero, but it is trivially small. So this doesn't matter too much, because when the interest rate, when the real return in the marketplace is zero, which it is today, there's no advantage of retirement accounts to deferral. The deferral advantage is completely gone these days. And the only advantage is really tax smoothing, being in a lower tax bracket. And they're under the Maximize plan pretty much in the same tax bracket throughout the entire rest of their life. So moving money from one year to the next isn't going to matter much in terms of saving taxes. So this doesn't do much, but let's see if we can find something that does a little bit more. So let's have them do the Maximize plan plus the extra contributions, but also do a Roth conversion. So what I did is I came to the retirement accounts here, and I have I specified a Roth conversion. You can see that right there. And let me just show you where this gets set. One of the inputs that we asked you about is, do you want to do a Roth conversion? And what we ask is the annual amount, when you're going to start the Roth conversion, when you're going to end it. And then whether the amount that you're going to convert is going to increase by a fixed rate per year over the years that you're doing the conversion. So that's how you input this. And let's see if I had George do a conversion too. I'm not sure I did. Let me just see. No, it's just Jean that's doing a conversion. And just to recall, how much is she converting? Well, she's converting 50K a year for the next 6 years. So it's so there's some value there to well, let's see what it does. So we're going to run the Roth conversion against the Maximize plan. I'm just going to run against the Maximize plan. And so what you do when you run this comparison report is you take the profile you're dealing with, and then you specify a profile to compare it against. And this Roth conversion increases their spending by, let's see, it goes from it goes up about $47,000. So this does increase their lifetime discretionary spending, but it may not be exactly what they want, because with a Roth, they're taking out the money later in life, and it kind of changes their profile. It produces some cash constraints that they may not like the way we've set this up. So I've kind of ignored the Roth in the rest of what I'm doing, but I just wanted to show you that the Roth conversion can matter and how easy it is to specify it. And then if you wanted to include it in the plan, you probably want to do something to help them deal with their cash constraint and get the, for example, you could have them stop their withdrawals sooner than at age 100. And then you get the money out sooner, and then they would have more cash and wouldn't be so cash constrained at the end of their day. So why is there a cash constraint showing up with this Roth? Well, it has to do with taxes. The assumption here under settings and assumptions is that the couple is going to take their Roth money out second, and that means that they're going to be paying very little taxes late in life relative to early, and that's something they can't borrow against. So that's why they're cash constrained. So now let me move to another case here, which is I'm going to have them downsize their home, and I'm going to run that against the Maximize plan. And what are they going to do in terms of downsizing? They're just going to downsize their home in half. So they're going to sell their current home and buy a new home. They're going to have half the size mortgage, so half the housing expenses, half the homeowner's insurance, half the property taxes, and we're going to have a big increase right now that we see in lifetime discretionary spending. It's gone up from on at least in the short run, their living standards up about 20%, about a 20% increase in their lifetime discretionary spending and their annual living standard associated with this downsizing. So a lot of people are house poor and don't realize it, or maybe not, you know, maybe house poor is too strong a statement, but that they have a lot of equity in their home that they could otherwise be enjoying, because our software doesn't specify that the house is sold unless you tell the program that the house is going to be sold. So when we ran this plan, we specified under housing a change in housing. We just came down here, and there's an option to specify a future housing change. So I put that in here. So now the next thing I'm going to do is do the same downsizing, but I'm going to have them pay 100% down. So rather than paying like 3.5% at a mortgage rate, which is what I was assuming that they'd have to pay, I'm going to assume that they just take some of the cap proceeds from their sale of the home and any regular assets they have, and just pay off, just buy the house outright with cash. So again, I'll run it against in this case, I'm just going to run it against the downsizing without any, while using a 50% down payment. So now we're assuming a 100% down payment. And gee, I've been able to raise their living standard yet again. It's gone up about $120,000, $122,000. So well, about $120,000. That's significant. So you made money when the client walked in the door. You made them $600,000, but here you're actually piling on more money for them. You're making more money every couple of minutes with this couple, because you've set up all these plans for them to look at. And now I'm going to have them do one more thing, which is move to Texas when they retire. Or actually, I think I actually have them move right away, and downsize down in Texas. So I'm going to run this against what you just saw and see if moving to Texas helps. Now, why would moving to Texas help? Well, they live in Connecticut. There's a high state income tax there. Texas, there's no income tax. So moving to Texas saves them some lifetime taxes, and it's about $10,000. It's not enormous, but it is something. So it's a little bit smaller than I would have expected, but it is what it is. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is, and then we'll get to Q&A. I'm going to have them annuitize their retirement accounts, and I'm going to run this against the last thing I just ran, which is downsizing, 100% down payment, and annuitizing their retirement accounts. And now they're, this is annuitizing. So this is adding the annuitization, and this is adding another basically $86,000 to their lifetime discretionary spending. So if you look at this total lifetime discretionary spending they're ending up with, which is 4.7 million, and if we did the extra contributions to retirement accounts, and if we did the Roth conversion, we'd have to play around a little bit with just smooth the living standard, do a few things. We could probably get that up to another $80,000 beyond where it is now. But let's just look at the number right now, 4.7 million. Well, the number we started out with in the base plan was a lot smaller. The base plan number was, let's go back. So 4.7 million versus, let's just run the base plan. And again, look how fast the program runs. So 4.7 million versus 3.2 million. So that's about a 50% increase in their lifetime. It's almost a 50% increase in their lifetime discretionary spending and their annual living standard. So that's a huge thing to be able to give your client. They walk in the door and you make $1.5 million for them. Not 680 million as we first thought, but 1.5 million is the total that they walk out the door with. These people are going to be clients for life, I believe. And even if the stock market doesn't do too well, and you put them in the wrong securities nobody can predict what the market's going to do. So they lose some money on the stock market. they're always going to remember that he made 1.5 million out of the blue for them and raised their living standard by 50%. So let me stop there, Alex, and have you fire off some questions to me, okay?